Perfect. So in spite of 2 years, Zoom still tends to, sometimes surprise us, which is not bad. But this is a beautiful morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Most of you know what WOMAG does, but I'll still tell you, it's a fantastic organization for women in food and agri-tech. And actually, we welcome pretty much everybody. And we're creating safe space, and I'll stick on this safe space. We do tons of other things, but I'll kind of today just stick on this idea of safe space where we really have real conversations and we support each other. And we try to bring some of the hard conversations to the mainstream without feeling, oh, can we talk about it or can we not talk about it? So it's all about safe space. It's all about camaraderie. It's all about friendships. And I've met some of the most amazing people through this organization. And today's conversation, and I'll keep talking about it as conversations because the whole idea about why mental health is important is not new. We all know the data. We know the striking stats that I can give you, how many founders suffer from depressions and suicide. So we're not going to talk about that. We already know that that's happening. What WOMAG really wants to do with this conversation is to give a safe space where we all can talk about what's happening and what can we do, like how can we bring this conversation to make it a really normal conversation among each one of us. And I do have some amazing founders with me who've been doing a fabulous work. They're also great friends now. But I'll start with one thing. When I was running my startup, somebody asked me, how's the experience been? And I said, it's like trying to repair a high-speed train when it's moving. So you're being thrown with everything at the same time, and you just have to keep moving. There's no point of where you can stop and say, okay, let me fix this and then I'll come back to it. And what it does is that it just adds pressure and stress all the time. And sometimes within the startup community, we say, oh, that's startup life. And we try to normalize that stress and pressure as part and parcel of being a founder. Yes, it is, but do we not need to address it? We do, right? And we need to find a way where we don't normalize that you being in depression or you being under stress is okay. And that's why we've got these amazing people over here who'll be talking to us today and sharing their experiences, and I'll let them introduce themselves. So Ruth, I see you on my screen. So, and for everybody else, sorry, just in terms of, because this is a conversation, feel free to keep your cameras on if you would like to. We'd love to see more of the faces. If you have questions at any time, please put it in the question Q&A box or put it in the chat. And I'll try to field in as many questions as possible. And anything else that goes wrong, we'll deal with it when it happens. So Ruth, why don't you give a quick intro?
Sure, thank you so much. And thanks for having me here this morning. So I am the co-founder of insurtech called Anapi. We help any sort of startup based in Singapore, startup or SME with insurance. So we help them get commercial insurance for their companies and their employees. And actually, recently, as of the 1st of May, so just only a couple of weeks ago, we were acquired by a bigger SME insurance broker in the Singapore market. So that's been very, very exciting for me after working on this company for a couple of years now and then being part of a bigger organization. So our transition continues, which is very exciting, but also comes with that lots of different stresses that I need to manage internally and now externally as well. And I'm really excited to be here and part of the conversation. I think it's extremely important to have community and network and just to be able to have time to talk about how we deal with our own mental health issues and stresses.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruth. Hi, Monika. Do you want to give a quick intro, please?
Hi, morning. Thank you for having me here. I'm a co-founder of impact trackers. We're basically a virtual run platform. So this started out because of the COVID situation, where people, you can't go out and join marathons and runs anymore. And you start having all these virtual runs, being seen around. So the main point, the gist on the back of it, where we are coming from, is not just a normal virtual run that you see out there, but we tried to put in the SDG goals, sustainability and all that, because we feel that that's the way moving forward. So we have a measure in our platform, and we hope that through this we can help the other SMEs who has difficulty measuring the SDGs, to meet their CSR. And at the same time to keep everyone healthy. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yvone.
Hi, it's great to be here. It's also really lovely to meet all you ladies. So I'm Yvone Foong from Chektec. I'm the CEO and founder of a software platform. So we primarily track goods, crops, and workforce actions data. And we do this for traceability and sustainability, and we focus a lot on safety, health, and environment practices. Before starting the company also, I was very much involved in healthcare. We developed applications for Sing Health, SGH, and SNEC. And one of the projects that we developed was actually based on mental health. And we focus a lot on youths and students, and to help them identify and become more aware about the differences between mental health issues. And we did it in a gamified situation. So this was an application that was very exciting at that time. We really wish that some of these different gamified applications would have been carried over, especially during the COVID situation. But I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you. And while I have you, Yvonne, on the mic, why don't you start with sharing, just quickly sharing some of the personal experience. You're one of the founders that I have known for the very start. I joined came to Singapore, right?
Yeah.
So, and you show up everywhere, which is remarkable. And I know how much pressure that puts on you. So share something with us from your personal experience of how it's been for you when it was really hard, and how did you deal with it? Or where did you find the right resources?
Well, I've also worked abroad before, so really hard is really a spectrum. And I do think that harmonizing your mental perspective and your physical fitness is very important. And that's what I've been doing for many, many years now, because I really find the benefits of exercising every day very important. There's a lot of scientific information about how that would help you chemically as well. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, of running the business, is, or running other people's business, which I've also done, is that you need the perspective and you need to create a bit of a buffer. So when you feel the stress and the pressures come on, you recognize it and you become aware about what it is, and then you try to let it pass, because that's only a perspective. This is from my point of view. That's only a perspective, and you just move ahead and you handle the issues. So that's what I primarily do. But I do think the physicality of exercising, taking breaks from your computer, which is what I encourage my team to do all the time, is very, very important. So
awesome.
That's one of the tips.
Perfect. Monika, you recently moved from the whole of the corporate life to starting the startup, and it's a different life, right? Share an experience while you were starting impact trackers, and share the real experience with us. What were some of the stress points, and what helped?
Definitely, to me, I feel the major difference was in the income. When you are in the corporate world, you have regular income, you clock in your hours, you get your salary. But when you start out on your own, it's really managing all this, balancing, what is good and what is realistic, looking at how we can, even going through interviews, managing people, how many to employ, the bottom line, all this, I think was the major stress point for me then, and really having to adjust that mentality, and even having to cut down on your expenditure, personal expenditure, we're not talking about corporates, personal expenditure. But what was good is that I have a very supportive group of friends around me, entrepreneurs as well. So how I relieve kind of my stress is really to talk to them, to get a different point of view, to just let off steam, and yeah, I'm pretty extrovert. So having groups of people around me makes me feel a lot better somehow, than just doing Zoom, facing the computers. So I when I'm around people, I feel so much better. And of course, because of my the app that I'm doing, right, is to do runs and walks and marathons. So I do quite a bit of outdoor walks and exercises. Those are the things that really help me, during this period of time, and especially during the COVID period, that was really tough. And that was when, we started out this whole project, this whole business. So everything just came together, and all those factors, actually, those pointers helped me through that period. Yes.
And that's a really good point, Monika, because, in COVID, there were lots of studies where a lot of people felt that people who were introvert excelled greatly during COVID, because, they didn't have that pressure of making the conversations. And some of us can't feel that. And let's come back to that, within your team, how do you all manage? But Ruth, your story is quite incredible, right? Right into pandemic, you became a new mom. You were working to get the company to a point where, it would get acquired. So you definitely needed that kind of a growth. How did you do? And, share with us a little bit. And I'm really intrigued about it, is because you're trying to get acquired. So you're also talking to a lot of investors and, external parties. How do that indirect pressure adds on to you while you're also raising a small, beautiful baby?
It's pretty incredible thinking back on the journey, actually. I was basically employee number one of Anapi, and became a co-founder. And I only actually took over the role as CEO just about 2 years ago. And the day my previous CEO said he wanted to step back and he wanted me to take over was also basically the time I just found out I was pregnant. So extremely, extremely early stage, couldn't really talk about it, all these new things happening, and now you want me to run the company. So I got off to a very high stress situation, should I say, already from like the get-go of taking over the company. And I really didn't know what to do. So the mandate for me was, all right, let's try and push the company as far as we can go, and try and find an exit, try and be acquired or merge with another company. I basically said, okay, I need some time to think about it. I'm not going to say yes and jump straight into this already. And I think I freaked out for like 10 minutes, and then I walked home, took a deep breath. I think what everyone else is saying, fresh air, getting outside, exercise kind of like helps your, just to decompress a little bit. And so that helped. I remember walking home from our meeting, and then I just thought about it on the walk home, like how many other successful women are there, entrepreneurs who have families, not just one kid, multiple kids. Like it's not like it's not, rocket science. Other women have done this. There's so many inspirational women I can draw experiences from. And so, I thought about that, went home, talked to my husband. He was like, go for it. Is it, like this is an opportunity that's come onto your lap that you'd never dreamed of, like being able to, to be able to get. It's been served to you like this. Yes, circumstances maybe aren't the best, not what you had intended, but it's an opportunity, and I'm really helpful I had that 10-minute walk home, the chat with my husband, you know, and there's that time to think about it. So I'm very glad I took that opportunity on. The last 2 years has been quite the ride. Balancing everything has been difficult, but then also I feel lucky because at the same time I'm in control of what I'm doing. You know, I didn't have to report to anybody. It was me. So I could say, these are the times I want to hold meetings. I know when my daughter naps, so I will hold calls during her nap time when it's her wake time or feed time. I want to be there. So just, again, I know I'm quite lucky at being able to structure it the way I needed it to be able to survive and manage both. And then my business partner was still there for me, and he's much, much better at the investor relation story than I am. And I think dividing and conquering really helped between the two of us. I was not alone in the whole journey. You know, I had him as my business partner. I relied on him on the external investment piece. I focus on running the business, just really getting it going and pushing it as far as we could. So that teamwork was extremely crucial for me. And, you know, I was open and honest about it. You know, when you know, the time came and I told him, look, I'm pregnant, I'm due in April or whatever it was, he was already like, oh, that's amazing. I was actually really scared to tell him. I was frightened because he'd basically handed over the keys to me, and then like 3 months later I dropped this bomb on him. But he was so excited for me. It's like, this is the best news ever. I'm so excited for you. Number one is your health. Number one is you're the baby, right? Don't worry about the company. And that was so reassuring to me that I had a business partner who was on the same mindset as me. And yeah, so I feel extremely, extremely fortunate. But I know it doesn't always work out like that. So you need to have your support system in place. And that's what's really become what I've realized is extremely important in the last couple of years, that support system.
Fantastic. And, you know, we're talking about support system, and I realize that, you know, we've got a really nice group over here. So if at any time, I'm actually going to open this up and maybe do this a little bit differently. If any one of you have faced the similar challenges and want to raise your hand and share your story, please feel free to, because this is a conversation, you know. It doesn't have to be super structured. But there are two things that really stood out for me. And one is that often we forget that women are, when they're leading an organization, they're not just leading the organization, they're also leading their lives, and they're leading, if you're married, you're leading your husband's life and making sure that, you know, they have everything, and then you have kids, and then you're looking after it. Now, this is a traditional role that we've just inherited it, and we're trying to break that bias, right? And some of us are super lucky to have husbands who realize and who chip in, and some of us are not. So from your opinion, what can we as employers, and, you know, especially three of you, you're building a team, right? So you can actually change that. What are some of the things that you incorporated for your employees? And well, it's male or female, you know, they all have their different opportunities. How are you helping them find that balance between work and life? Would you like to share something? Because I know you all have different teams and you're building that. So how are you changing those policies?
I think with COVID, you know, and Zoom and Google Meet and all that, it really makes things a lot simpler. You know, for us, we don't require workers to come into the office, physical office per se. So everything is done via WhatsApp, via Zoom Meet, if there's a need to. We basically trust in each other, you know, in them, and let them have a free hand. So projects are given, and, you know, deadline is being set, and it's really up to them whenever they finish doing it. It's really, I don't know. When I was in the corporate world, I used to go into the office and have my, you know, boss sitting 2 seats down from me, and I feel, you know, and I can only go for lunch an hour, and things like I felt it was very stressful. So yeah, I mean, we have a very open channel, communication channel, and employees are free to take breaks whenever they want to. And yeah, so I think this really, sorry. So this really helps a lot. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Yvonne, Ruth, did you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, I mean, because we work a lot with software developers, and some of them have become fathers many times over during the course of our teamwork together. We really encourage, as I mentioned before, taking breaks from the computer because they are developing, the features, and they really need to take breaks. So we circulate exercises that they can do, and they can take breaks. And these exercises, very simple desk exercises, neck exercises, and stand up, or if they need to during the COVID situation, when they had to take breaks because of illness or whatever the reason was in the family, it was not part of the whole leave requirement, so I just gave it to them and make sure that they took care of their families. So this gave them a very safe space to know that it's not just the project and the schedule that they have to fulfill, but everything is also broken down in tasks. So we have this on the software platform, and they know that if they fulfill the task to the best of their ability, and even in half the time or 3/4 of the time necessary, they can take the break and attend to the family matters. So during the COVID situation, we made sure that happened. And the second thing I want to mention is that in Singapore, the Workplace Safety Health Council has started a program this year again for mental health. So it's a free program that most companies can sign up for. And there are 3 on the list, I think, that will be able to provide that service. So we really look at 2 of them. One is ergonomics in the workplace, which also includes a free session that I think I heard it has yoga in it as a free session. But they do take the data before they start the program to check on the mental health issues before and after. And then the second one is on mental health awareness specifically for the company. So I think programs like this are very important and worth looking at for most companies.
Actually, that's a really brilliant point, because we do know that just not startups, but even SMEs tend to struggle with limited resources and constant deadlines. You forget to stop and do the check-ins where
yeah, and it's also Uma, the language of mental health awareness, so that the workers can communicate what they're feeling or what is disturbing them at that particular point in time. When we developed the application for mental health, we were trying to teach the users the difference between, for example, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar. All these differences most people are not aware of, and they don't have the tools or the communication terms or the language to convey that information to another person.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's a really good point, Yvonne, around the language. And I'm going to come back to, Monika and Ruth also on this, and anybody else who would like to chime in, please do so. How do you make sure that, your employees, you've all said things around trust. Now, how do you make sure that they actually feel that they can tell you when they're struggling? And I think for so many years, we've made this so difficult to talk about that now talking about it is just hard. Like accepting that you're struggling is really hard. Have you faced some of these issues? And I'm very keen on understanding from a small organization point of view. If you have, please share something with us. And how do you encourage your teams to constantly talk about it and make it a commonplace, right? Like, it's okay for us to say that, okay, I'm struggling.
I think it's all about the tone of the top, right? We've got to lead by example, and I mean that's what I try and do. I've had a very, very small team for 2 years, and we went through COVID together, and now we're a larger team. Right now I've got so much on my plate, and we're now meeting in an office twice a week. So I've got FaceTime with them, and I'm trying to be open and say, hey, like, this is so nice that we're here together. What a great journey we're on together. But also, I'm struggling with this. So I'm trying to be vocal about it myself, trying to be like vulnerable with my team to let them know, hey, it's okay. I've got a million things to do and I'm dealing with a sick child at the same time. Like, oh, this is all a bit much. And I'm just hoping that just by being the first one to start that conversation, that shows my team that, hey, it's okay to have these thoughts and to vocalize it and bring it up in a safe environment to talk about it. And then we can talk about, come up with solutions on how best to prioritize different tasks or etc. So I'm really trying to be, being the one that sets the example.
Great point. I think all of us can learn from that, right? Monika, over to you.
I totally agree with what Ruth said. I mean, that's what I do for myself as well. I vocalize it. I talk about it. It's about really just just show them that it's okay to voice it out. So the same as Ruth, I'll let them know, there's this thing that's stressing me out now. For example, like my kids having exam, or whatever, so, and then the funny thing is when you talk about it, you start having people, contribute and give you some solutions, some feedback, and some of them are really quite useful, yeah. So I guess because the good thing is we are a small team, so it's easy to be close and open with each other. But that's basically what we try and do, or what I try and do to make sure that as our team grow, it will continue. This practice will just continue. Yes.
I think it will, Monika, because you set the ground rules for it, and and somebody once said that you'll end up hiring the people that are quite similar to you, which can be a disadvantage at some point. But from cultural fit, it lands a building into it, right? You've set the ground for being open, being honest, not misusing the trust, which often people have that. And being understanding towards the human side of things needed. Yes, work needs to be done, but you're going to have a sick child, you're going to have a sick parent, you're going to be sick yourself, and it's okay. And one of the things, when I recently moved my job, I realized I had very late calls and my son does not sleep well, but woke up and I said, I'm really sorry, I have to leave. And my boss said, you don't need to be sorry about it, And I think some of us as women, because we're handling so many things, and even men, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be generalizing, even men, when we're handling so many things, we do our best for everything. And I think we need to stop apologizing, because it's something that we're addressing and we need to do. We're not doing it out of, disrespectful or not being responsible. And I think normalizing that part, especially for me, was really hard, that I need to stop apologizing for doing 10 other things that I need to do. I think that's been one of the things that I've started to really think about. I know, look, this is really great conversation, and I keep coming back to three of you, but I'm really opening the floor to everybody. If you have something to say, please just talk to us. But you all talked about the physical aspect of moving out to deal with your mental health. Now, let's take a step a little bit behind. How do you differentiate between you really struggling or, spiraling into a depression than just a normal pressure of, okay, I have a deadline and I have this pressure? How do you start to realize that all these pressure, when they stack up, they turn to burnout? If you can share some of that, signals, so that others can look that out within themselves as signals that you're moving into a burnout or you're moving into a depression, and also to look out within your team. How do you do that? How do you, identify at an early stage so that you can step in and help? Sorry about the long-winded question.
So, sorry, this question was for me, was pointed at me, or? Okay.
All three of you, so all of you can step in.
Well, when we were working with the Institute of Mental Health, some of the signals for depression is that it feels like an anchor. that pulls you down into the depths, the ocean. And that's a very strong image that when it was described to me, that stuck with me for a very long time, because it's a very good image. So I think that if your team members express the inability to come out of that, the weight of the stress and everything, and it becomes very, very clear that no matter what happens or what is done, that they can't lift themselves up because of that weight that they feel, the anchor pulling them down, then I think more attention should be paid to that team member. Of course, I'm not an expert on this. This is based on our experience from working together with the organization. But I think that's one of the few things that can be done. And also for the leader of the company or the project to really pay attention to your team members. It's good to create that culture of openness and transparency, and the freedom to talk. But, some people still won't communicate. So you really have to pay attention. And those are some of the clues that I look for in men or women, because they get bogged down sometimes with some of the details. So, those are some of the clues that I look at.
So, Monika, Ruth, did you have anything to add?
To be honest, I'm still learning about all of this. So I would love to hear from other people in the audiences here who might have more experience on this.
So, Monika?
Same for myself, because, it's been a small team and we've been very open. So, it's good that, Yvone is sharing with us, these are some of the symptoms to look out for. But personally for myself, how do I realize when I'm getting, quite there already, is when I can't sleep. I close my eyes and I toss and turn, and I'm really tired, but I can't sleep. And if that happens for 2 days, I know I'm about there. I will I will tell my partners I need to take some time off. I go out there and meet people and talk, and be around people and socialize and just let off some steam. And so for me, my signal was it's basically sleepless night.
And that's a very good one.
Yeah. And when I feel that my voice is getting higher and louder when I talk to my loved ones, my children, and even my husband, when it just gets, when I get a lot
It's right.
irritated, a lot easier, yes, I know I'm about there. Yeah.
Cool. Erin, did you want to add anything? Okay, cool. No, that's actually a good point. And actually, this brings us to the point where maybe our next conversation should be with an specialist who can help us identify what are the early stages of burnout and depressions are, what to look out for. And thank you for that idea. That's really good. I think the point that Anuradha just brought up in the chat is, creating that safe online spaces. Share with us some of the good practices that you have within the team around, around usage of Zoom. How do you communicate? I've always said that if you have a very important conversation to have it in person, because sometimes the conversation gets lost in a WhatsApp or an email or, so, and it's happened to me plenty of times, trust me. So share with us some of this, which is very hard nowadays when, we're working in this hybrid model. How are you creating these safe online spaces for your teams?
So we're big users of Slack. Kind of assume most people know what Slack is. It's like WhatsApp for business. You've got the different channels. So I try to have like a fun channel where you can talk about anything, like, oh, went to this great restaurant on the weekend, so there's some sort of like banter on there, because I think it's also good to, have banter within the team, and not everything has to be work related communications. to be honest, that doesn't seem to pick up so much, but at least with there. We've now that we moved to FaceTime in an office twice a week, this is when all of our meetings are happening, because we've got the opportunity to be face to face. And maybe this is another challenge that I have now, actually, is that my day is completely back to back with meetings, individual meetings, either with individual team members, group, or the external meetings, that I am absolutely fatigued by the end of the day, because it's hard. Yeah, even though it's face to face, I don't have time to do any of my own work, because it's like meeting after meeting after meeting for the whole day. So maybe that's a new problem that I've got, rather than being on the screen all day. Back to the question about creating an online safe environment. I think look, with Slack, we try and just make it open, as I mentioned before, open communication. You've got that as a written verbal form. Now that we do have face-to-face time, that's I agree with what you said, Utma. Like, if there's something important, it's so much better, so much easier also to make sure your point is really carried across properly when it is done face-to-face. And to be honest, I don't actually do like Zoom or Google Meets meetings anymore with my team, now that we have this dedicated time. So that's been quite nice as well.
Fantastic. Yvone, Monika, did you have anything to chime in?
Well, we also have tools, and we use those tools as well. But I think that having run much bigger teams and now looking at smaller teams, I really try to get to know the team members and the background, the families that they have, whether they're direct families or they're, the parents, and trying to understand a bit more about that family background, because that's where you also understand where the stress will also come in, as you mentioned, Utma. So that, I think, is very important, because something that could be affecting their work day could not be work related, could have been something that happened that morning, so it's really good to be aware and be very attentive, and then understand their family background, and then how we can respond to that in a positive manner.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Monika, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Yvonne. For us, what we do is, although we have a lot of FaceTime, mainly to do with work and all that, and we communicate a lot via WhatsApp. At the same time, we have, I make it a point to know, like, for our case, we've got an intern who is actually a refugee. So, when things were, when they were having a lot of issue with Afghan and all that, so he was very worried. I mean, it's understandable, so we were in touch with, I was constantly talking to him and see how's things, and he was telling us he's worried about his aunt, and his granddad and all that. So, so online for us, online and even via WhatsApp is mainly, I must say, for work. But on top of that, we really try to get to know each and every one of our employees and really understand their background, what they're passionate about, what's their priority, what's going on in their life at that moment. Yeah, and we do talk about it. We'll check on each other.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, thank you so much for sharing. It's always the soft skills that's very important when it comes to mental health and, diversity and inclusion also. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring diversity and inclusion together, because it directly links to the mental health issues, right? We know the systematic biases that exist in workplaces that can add to your stresses and your pressures. And I think one of the things that we internally have started to do is, to block your time, that I'm not available on WhatsApp from this and this, because everybody in Asia uses WhatsApp, but you also use WhatsApp for personal reasons. Now, do you want a message hanging in there at 10 o'clock in the night? No. So I think just setting those specific, availabilities and non-availability, Slack works really well, because you can set up a status to say, I'm not there. And it's okay to not immediately respond to a message. I think one thing I learned after a really bad experience was if there's a very difficult conversation happening on online or platform, take 5 minutes before you respond to it. Anything that you respond immediately is something that you really don't want to talk about. So I think these are just some of the soft skills that makes a lot of difference. And especially like I've been trying to change my habit from saying, hey guys, to hey everyone. And it's super hard. But to somebody else, it may come across as like, okay, you're only addressing the guys in the room, or where do I fit in? And I think with small team, it makes a lot of difference, because sometimes we may not have we may not have the kind of diversity that we're looking at, and we may miss it. So I think it's just about addressing and identifying that. So thank you so much for sharing such amazing insights. And this was truly a conversation. I absolutely enjoyed it. And I'm going to propose something that I think in the coming months, we'll try and set up a physical one where we just come and have conversation and, have a coffee. And we'll try to keep it as a small group. I'll take that up on myself. And I know my amazing colleague Pauline is over here, who's also part of our community team at WooMag, who's super enthusiastic and doing all of this, and she keeps our teams quite entertained. Hello. So we'll work on something so that we can bring all of you together in person to have this conversation, and get away from the screen and see the beautiful people. I know that if Foong, you have a slide for us to show, because we have some amazing events coming up. So we'd love to tell you more about those if you wanted to share. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today and sharing your experiences. And I hope this has helped, just as casual conversation has helped you identify some of the things around mental health. And that all of us in this room are people you can lean on if you ever need somebody to talk to without judgments. We're all here at WooMag to just listen in and support in any ways that we can. We are truly committed in really creating that safe space. And a huge thanks to Foong and Jenny and Ju for doing what you do so beautifully. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and hopefully we will see you for our next event.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us today.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you for sharing.
Everyone.
Inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.